Good. It's irrelevant afternoon. You could be listening to this at any time, but this is episode 3 of the Mojito Movement, and today I'm joined by the legend that is James Micklem. I will get him to introduce himself very shortly, but it's customary at this point before we start that we're going to cheers our mojitos. James, yours is much stronger than mine. No, mine is much stronger than yours.
Don't say that.
That's not true. You're
later,
driving home. I'm not driving anywhere. Honestly, I haven't started already.
Can we do it again? You look me in the eye.
Yeah, there you go, mate.
It's a proper family thing. My dad would kick off if
I apologise. Maybe it's a lack of confidence thing. No, on my behalf.
No, I just fear him. He's just like, look at me.
Yeah, I mean, we all fear our dads in one way,
That's
shape,
a whole
or form.
podcast.
It is. Join us next time. No, but yeah. So I'm joined by James, and introduce yourself. Tell everybody who you are.
Who am I? Ex-banker, boyfriend, all the way. So yeah,
not my boyfriend.
I'm currently only behind closed doors. I'm currently an online coach / in-person coach. On a bit of a transition period, on a much longer transition period from corporate world banker into personal trainer. So long story short, was kind of good at maths at school. So went to do a maths degree because I wanted to go to university and nothing else lent itself. Came out, the only real option was accountant or banker. Accountancy felt even more boring than banking, so I went into banking. HSBC grad scheme, 7 years later, got the 7-year itch, like the famous relationship work 7-year itch, and thought, I was just looked to the top of the ladder going, if I end up there, I'm going to hate myself. I'm going to hate my family. I'm going to hate my wife for all various reasons. I just looked at them and went, fuck, is that it? And then pulled the plug, really.
Happy days. So what's for everyone listening? What's your socials so that people
James
can go
Micklem _PT.
Excellent. So yeah,
is Instagram, and Twitter might exist. It might have a handle with the same thing.
It's not going to be like the Premiership footballers, is it? That somebody's going to dig up a tweet from 2004 that when you said something that you shouldn't have done.
Definitely not. Facebook, on the other hand, Christ knows what's on there from when we were 15 upwards.
Facebook is the worst when it goes on this day and it's a tweet that's just the most, or post that's just the most embarrassing thing ever, and you go, what was going on in my world for me to think that people wanted to know that?
Yeah.
And it happens on a semi-daily basis.
Yeah, it does.
Like, do you remember when you said this when you were 14? Oh, yeah, don't I just? Absolute shit show.
Different person.
Yeah, absolutely. It's not me. They just look suspiciously similar.
And uses words that you use today.
Yeah, like shit cunt. But one of the things I really want to dig into with you, we've got really similar stories. So anyone that's listened to previous podcasts that I've done, which are still available if you want to find them, you can go to my website and click on podcasts and you'll find them there. But our stories are ridiculously similar in that I foraged away into what I thought I needed to do. I was with my ex at the time. We both were quite career driven. Her dad in particular gave me the roughest time when I left sixth form without a job and claimed that his benefits were not there to pay my way.
Was he on benefits?
Sorry, his taxes were not there. Good job you pointed that out. He's not on benefits, but he was paying taxes, and apparently his taxes were not to support me, and I needed to get a job. So I found my way into the world of telecoms as a fresh-faced 19-year-old, and I'll be honest, from minute one I knew it probably wasn't what I was aiming to do for the rest of my life. But you find your way into a job and you start making some pretty good money when you're that age, and you go, oh, this is all right, this. And then I got made redundant from that particular job, moved back from Surrey back down to Dorset, still with my ex, and got another job in telecoms, and just found myself at the age of like 20, 21 aspiring to get as high as I could on the corporate ladder. I thought it was the way to go. I always used to make statements like, I want to move indoors and upstairs, meaning I wanted to become like a C-level director and everything. And that was the dream. And we bought a house when I was 21. I had my first BMW at 21, and I was like, yeah, I'm the fucking Don. And then you get to like mid-20s and you're making really good money, and you end up just stuck in a career that you're like, I don't know if this is actually me.
Yeah.
And I had many a day when I was shagging up and down the motorway for like 6 or 7 hours, blaring my music, thinking the only good thing about my job is the 3 or 4 hours there and the 3 or 4 hours back where I can just be myself. Like, I don't like wearing suits unless I'm going to a wedding. I don't like sitting meetings with people and talking about stuff I don't really understand, and I don't like the fact that, I didn't like the fact that I also had no desire to get a better understanding of the stuff I was trying to sell. I just became a classic salesman where the answer was always yes, and it was somebody else's problem to sort it out if I'd missold it. So you end up in this situation where you're just like, you almost get penned in. And I distinctly remember with me, I was probably about 27, and I really realised that I wanted to get into the world of PTing, and I think online coaching was just starting to become a bit of a thing. People like James Smith were on sort of like 10,000 followers, and at that point in time 10,000 followers was a lot. And
I'd kill for 10,000 followers.
Well, so had I on Instagram, but like that was you were considered to be like famous if you had 10,000 followers at the time, whereas obviously now it's quite small.
Every man and his dog, whether they've got them or bought them.
And I just remember looking at what he was doing, thinking, "That's a bit of me. That is a bit of me." And I just felt like it was never going to happen, because you work full time. PT courses either want you to do like 3 weeks intensively or a year of studying on weekends. And I ran a football team at the time, and I was like, "Well, weekends I can't do." I'm not going to be able to get 3 weeks off of work. Like, they're funny enough if you try and take 10 days off. So I was like, I just assumed it would never happen, and then I stumbled upon an online course I could do on my own time, and
that was probably so when I started, they were a dime a dozen. So that wasn't really a barrier to entry for me, which is good. But for you, I guess we're talking a few years back. There's obviously an industry has been created around people wanting to become online coaches, or any coach, but like obviously that's people are leaning into that. So it would have. I didn't even think that would have been a struggle, but it makes sense.
It really was, and I remember I met up. I went for like lunch with somebody I used to work with, a girl called Kerry, and we went to the Slug and Lettuce on Paul Key. And I was saying then that I wasn't happy with what I was doing. And I said that I wanted to become an online coach, and that's what I wanted to go into. She said, "Why don't you do it?" And I distinctly remember saying, "Unless I quit, that I just won't have the time to do the course." And obviously, when you're making very good money, you don't really want to just quit just so you can go and study.
No.
So it rumbled on, and then eventually I did my course, and I left that company I was working for. I was working for a different company, and got to a point where they'd just been bought by somebody, and I was getting paid very good money, still hated what I was doing. At first I thought maybe it's the company I don't like, and if I go and do the same job for somebody else I'll enjoy it more, and it turns out no, I fucking hated the job.
It's the whole thing, the whole package.
And I just got to that point where it's like they could pay me twice what I'm on, and I wouldn't be happy doing what I'm doing. I would just spend more money. So I did my qualifications, and I got wind after they got bought by this big American company that they were going to be making some people redundant, and the phrase is being bandied around. You've probably heard it from your corporate days, is last in first out. And I'd only been there, I think I'd been there about 18 months, something like that, and there was only one guy that had been there less time than me. I was like, well, I doubt it'll be him, because he's only just started. So I'm like, I doubt they'll get rid of him.
Right.
And I had a one-to-one with our MD, and every one-to-one I'd had until this point had been really positive, and he was really supportive. And then I had this one-to-one, and we went through my pipeline, and he was a bit of an arsehole, like, and it was almost out of character. And I was like, well, this is uncomfortable.
Red flags.
Yeah, massively. So he then said, by this time next month when we sit down, I want to see X, Y, Z improvements. Otherwise, we'll be having a really frank conversation. And I was like, will we now?
Yeah.
And I did the most sensible thing that anyone would do. I sat down with my best friend, and I said, this is what's going on. And she was like, well, how's your business doing? And I was like, it's doing okay, but obviously it's not a 6-figure salary. But we're getting close to that ceiling where I can't grow it anymore if I keep working. She was like, well, why don't you just jack it all in and go for full-time self-employed? And my missus was like, that sounds like a risky strategy for a couple with no savings.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, you're right, absolutely. So what I did is I went in the next month and I gave him my notice and walked away, and was like, yeah, fuck it, I'll jump rather than being pushed.
Do you reckon redundancy would have found its way to you?
I have no idea. I wasn't prepared to wait and find out. I was like, I don't really want to get called into a meeting at the beginning of December and be told that you've got a month's notice and you're out in your ear. I was like, fuck it, if I'm going to have a month's notice, I'll give them a month's notice. And the good thing that came out of it was that one-to-one started really uncomfortably, as soon as I brought my pipeline up, and it wasn't any different, and the MD's face changed. And then when I handed in my notice, we ended up having about a 3-hour meeting where he just gave me endless amounts of business guidance and wisdom about about how he built his business to a point where he just sold it for however many millions of pounds to an American company. And I was like, well, this has been a much better use of my time than being dragged over the proverbial coals for being shit.
Do you still stay in contact with him?
I haven't, to be honest with you. There's probably about 2 or 3 people in total that I'm still in contact with from my corporate days. One of which is somebody I used to play football with, so we don't really talk shop, so to speak. But I don't really keep in touch with anyone. It's like, it's almost like a part of my life that I've just pushed to one side and been like, yeah, that's just a bad memory.
It does sound like yours was more clear cut than mine.
Yeah, so well, talk me through your journey, because obviously yours is similar in that you foraged and forged a really good career and then have transitioned across.
Yeah.
So talk me through it.
I just wasn't as brave as you. It's funny, people say...
Oh, it's not bravery. I think looking back, I think it was a little bit of naivety and a little bit of stupidity.
Yeah,
but
I got that in spades. It was just...
Yep.
I don't hate banking. I look back at my time in banking so fondly. Like the age of... I guess I started at 25 and finished 24, finished at 29, 30. I just had the best time. Like, I was living in London. All of my friends after university had moved to London. They were either in recruitment, law, insurance, all of the sort of those jobs that when you were a 90s baby, by the time, 1990. So if you were born in 99, you had a very different life to me. The options were literally those. If you want to be rich, these are the career paths that you take. And the lifestyle that my job afforded me was perfect. I loved it. Like, it was meeting up with my friends frequently. I played football. My girlfriend lived in Bournemouth, which is where we are now. So I could train up and down every other weekend, and the expense didn't even trigger. It wasn't a thing. I didn't need to worry about it. And I love a lot of the people that I worked with. So I met my old boss on Monday, and the value I get from those relationships and those conversations now are massive. And I believe will continue to be as I grow my business. Their acumen in that space is going to be invaluable. You think about how much we pay for mentors. If I can have another one with another opinion that I can call on at any time, then that's really valuable. But yeah, mine was, I was HSBC for 7 years. I wanted to go abroad. My dream was always to work abroad with HSBC. There was a talent scheme within the company that had been running for 150 years since HSBC's inception. And as soon as I joined, I said, that's what I want to be. Get paid too much money to go around the world and travel. And I applied in March 2020. And then obviously COVID happened. And that scheme, for the first time in 150 years, got cancelled. And I just realised that for the whole 7 years, that was my plan A, and B, and C, and D. And I just thought, I have nothing now. I have no drive.
Purpose.
No purpose is the important one. And then I watched myself over COVID. I was leading calls. I was a digital program manager for HSBC Expat, which was the most lucrative arm in the business, in a kimono. Literally at 9:30 in the morning.
Love it.
It was my beard looked like yours, but nowhere near as good as yours. It was just puby and lengthy. Couldn't cut my hair, obviously. I looked like I'd been doing Movember for 2 years. I just didn't recognise myself anymore. I could have stayed there, and I would have been well off. But I just thought, I'm no longer tenacious. I'm no longer ambitious. I'm taking my salary every month. I was playing Call of Duty for northward of 5-6 hours a day, and getting paid for it. And I just thought, this was fun for 3 or 4 months. I'm embarrassed now. Like, to see the person I was before COVID, where I was applying for this scheme, I was slamming all of my deliveries out the park. Relationship building was amazing. Network was growing. Fast forward 18 months, and I'm like a 21-year-old. And I thought, I need to make a seismic change. And then ultimately what happened was, the job that I was in, I was on a secondment. During COVID, it was only meant to be 6 months, but because COVID hit, I just stayed in it. COVID lifted and they said, right, you're going to have to apply for that role now. It's a formality. But that's the process. If you want the job you're on secondment for, you apply for it. And I was in the second interview, and it was, obviously I'd been doing the job for 18 months and they were happy with it. I just said, what happens if I stop applying? If I just say, I retract my application. They said, we have to legally offer you redundancy. And I've been there for 7 years, and you get a month's pay for every year you've been there. And I was like, that's a no-brainer. Like, worst comes to worst, I go to another bank.
Yeah.
But you're affording me 7 months without tax to decide what you want to do with your life. That's why I say I'm not as brave as you. Like, yeah. I'm very open about the fact that I was given a lump sum amount of money to decide what I wanted to do. And that's why when I talk to people in my coaching, I try and be a mentor from a business perspective and a life perspective without going near the life coach point.
Yeah.
And I can't say, leave your job, follow your passion, go and be a PT, go and do this for a living, because you've got dependents, you've got a mortgage, you're not being offered 7 months to go. And if I haven't done it myself, there's no way I can stand behind saying you should do it. So people who are unhappy in their jobs look at me and go, oh, you've made this amazing shift, because they're imagining what it would be like for them to do it.
Yeah.
And I have to say, I appreciate it, but I'm not that brave. Like, I was given a great opportunity, I've taken it.
Yeah.
We need to find a way of you loving your life, maybe with your job in.
Yeah.
That might not be able to go anywhere. How does your job give you happiness? And it's probably not, I get a lot of fulfillment if it's in banking, but is the salary giving you great holidays with your kids every year? If that's the case, you do like what your job offers you, you just might not like the day-to-day.
Yeah, and I think it ties in quite nicely in terms of obviously what we do as coaches, because again, my understanding of your ethos is quite similar to my ethos, in terms of it's not about trying to put people through things that they don't like. It's about helping people create a lifestyle they can actually enjoy that gets them towards their goals. And I think quite often people feel the same way that you did, the same way that I did in their professional careers, where they're a little bit trapped, they're a little bit stuck in the path that they've gone down. You get, once you've been doing the same thing for a certain amount of time and you're at a certain level, your options to do something different are pretty much the same job for somebody else.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's very difficult to transition and retrain and do something completely different. So people already give up a lot of their enjoyment of their time to a job that perhaps they don't enjoy. And when I see people then adding to that a diet that they don't like, a training program that they don't like, and it's like, no wonder you feel fucked all the time.
Yeah.
You're literally making 99% of your life things that you don't like. So for me, it's, whilst I don't think I would advocate quite so much for being so cavalier and copying what I did. There's an element of obviously hard work, but a little bit of luck that here we are sort of approaching pretty much 5 years to the day since I gave notice.
Is it?
That's so I went self-employed in January 2020, so right before COVID hit, which was delightful.
God, that was
so gave my notice, I think it was right at the end of November, so I finished the week before Christmas and took great pleasure in telling people I was semi-retired. Which, to be honest with you, it's the third day in a row drinking mojitos with people, having a good chat. So I feel pretty much like that's close to retirement.
It's a hard one not to look at and go, is this real life? Because I guess some people have always been an in-person coach, and then they've gone online, and there's a freedom and there's a fluidity in that life that is both awesome and shit, in the sense that we could work 2 hours at 6 a.m. till 8 a.m. and then work 2 hours and then 1 hour and then work 7 p.m. till 9 p.m. if you're an in-person coach. So that's got a fluidity about it that yes, you've got lots of hours in the middle of the day that you get to do what you want, but your day's 14 hours long. And that's rubbish. But then at the same time, we get to go and get a haircut when we want and go out shopping. You don't need to ask anyone if you want to do any of those things. So there's pros and cons. Whereas because we've gone from you're at a desk 9 till 5, I feel crazy that I went and got my haircut at 11 o'clock today.
Yeah, it's mad,
that's
isn't
still ingrained in me that I got up. Don't have any in-person clients today, as I said, so I got up at 9 o'clock. During COVID I might have done, but during the desk days, got up at 9 o'clock, cleaned up from dinner last night, hung the washing out, went and got my hair cut, and yes, I get paid fuck all compared to what I was on at the desk days. Like, what is that freedom worth to me? And obviously the money that I earn now is lower than it was at the time, but 5 days a week was never my own. Whereas here, 7 days a week are my own, and I actually like what it is. So what was that extra X thousand amount of pounds affording me? Just a lot of stress. Yeah. It's a trade-off that I love. Other people, I guess, couldn't.
Yeah, and I completely get it, because it's very much the same for me. In the when I was in the corporate world, I felt like for what they were demanding from me, I actually felt like, although the money was good, it wasn't enough for what they wanted. The minute I became an account manager and I was officially not bound by office hours, the expectation was that I was contactable 24/7, and I'm like, you don't pay me enough for that.
Yeah.
But that's the the expectation that was there, is that I'm happy to do that because I have uncapped earning potential and uncapped commission, and it just got to that point where I was like, do you know what, this is way too much stress. Like the stress of carrying a sales target of £500,000 in 6 months, and it's like, if you don't hit it, people are like proper kicking off at you. But actually, the industry I was working was public sector, so it's not like corporate sales where you can really influence decisions. Like there are hoops and there are many different processes you have to go through before money can get assigned and signed off, and it's, if things take longer than they should, it's not a reflection of a salesman's ability. It's the fact that the public sector is awful to do business with.
Probably, yeah.
And there was always this lack of almost like compassion, despite the fact the business had been built working with the public sector. There was like a complete lack of understanding as to how things worked from a sales perspective. And I now look at my stresses then versus my stresses now, and I sit there and I go, well, yeah, maybe financially I'm almost back to a place where I would say I'm kind of matching what I walked away from after 5 years of hard work. But I look at it and go, well, my stresses at the moment are, did I post on TikTok on time? Did I yesterday was a bit stressful because Instagram went down, and I was like, oh shit, I can't do any work for a bit. So I watched The Grinch and ate some chocolate.
You're in a different financial position to me. So
it's one of those weird situations now where I kind of look at it and I genuinely feel like I'm robbing an income at times, because I sit there and I go, well, I just don't have the stresses that I used to, and I never thought that this would actually like come to fruition. You kind of go into it and go, I'm going to be an online coach and I'm going to build a following and I'm going to build a business and I'm going to work from wherever I want, and like when it starts to actually happen, you go, oh, fucking, this is actually all right.
Yeah, there's a couple things. The first one is, I don't know whether I project this onto myself or other people, or I feel it from other people, is, do I have a proper job?
Yeah.
And then the definition of a proper job is, are you at a desk 9 till 5? Are you commuting there and back? Do you have a hierarchy that you need to impress at the end of the year? Do you get a rating that determines your bonus? All those things. And I go, no. But why is a proper job like the right thing? Yeah. And what we're doing now is not the right thing.
It's like society's conditioned, isn't it? That you finish school, you either go to further learning or like further education, or you go into some form of employment, and that you, from the age of like anywhere between 17 to your early 20s, you start working, and at least 5 days a week, at least 50 weeks of the year, you're working, and you do that up until you're, well, it used to be 60, 65, it then got moved to 67. I imagine by the time that we're considering retirement, it'll probably be about 89 years old that you're supposed to work until, and it's just commonly accepted that you trade the majority of your life, you trade the majority of your time to go and earn money, and I think that's why a lot of people end up in situations where they are unhappy with large parts of their life, because they fall into careers and then you suddenly realise that like 50 odd years of doing this is a long time.
It is. I don't know whether there's been a complete shift in our mentality, but my dad was in insurance for 45 years.
Yeah.
And I don't think he didn't like that. I don't think he looks at it in the same way that I look at that and go, I wouldn't even have minded being in banking.
Yeah.
As long as they're different jobs, you're not in the same office job for 45 years. How anyone achieves that is mind numbing. But yeah, I think he's probably the one I'm talking about when I say I haven't got a proper job, is him going, right, you've gone from banking. I remember the day I came in to the pub he was in to say I've got the grad scheme at HSBC. And yeah, I mean, the proudest he's ever been of me, definitely.
Yeah.
And then I took redundancy, and it was a bit of a joke that's okay. He knows that things are different now, but it was the fact that I wasn't immediately looking for another job irked him a little bit. He was like, "What's
but I think
next?"
It's like a generational thing, isn't it? But we're very fortunate that we're part of an era where there are possibilities to make ridiculous amounts of money online doing.
Mate, there's too many
ridiculously unprofessional things. To put it politely, when we were kids, and I remember getting like my first games console and wanted to play on the PlayStation all the time. My parents would be like, "Well, you can't make money when you're older from the PlayStation." Bastards. Like, fucking yes, you can.
Little did they know.
Yeah, I wish I'd known that. I would have carried on trying to get bang average at FIFA in the hope that I could play esports.
KSI, literally one of the most successful YouTubers that ever, still. Just filmed himself playing FIFA, and I don't think he was. I didn't watch him. I don't think he was good.
Probably
it's just
not.
your reactions to something.
Yeah, and it's crazy, and I think that's why I view it as what I do almost as like semi-retirement. I mean, I guarantee I work harder now that it's my business than I ever did when I was paid to work for somebody. The difference is that 99% of what I do I really enjoy, so it doesn't feel like work. Yeah. And I always used to think it was a big cliche that if you do something you love, you'll never work a day in your life. And I was like, oh, what a load of shit.
Yeah.
But it genuinely is. Like, for me, the process of creating content, the process of working with clients, even doing the more sales-based stuff of signing new clients and doing consultation calls, none of it feels like work.
No.
Like, it genuinely feels like something I just love doing. I really like interacting with people.
True. Yeah.
And I get to create content where I can call people cunts, and it's absolutely fine.
Yeah.
And it's like, this is a bit of me. And I think it's part of why I completely echo what you say in terms of I almost feel like I don't have a proper job, but I don't want a proper job.
Yeah, people say it like it's a bad thing.
Yeah.
Can we just like reverse engineer that one and say, okay, so I haven't got a proper job. No. What does a proper job mean to you? And they will reel off a whole host of negative things.
Yeah.
So can you not just take some time to assess your argument and realise that it's fucking dumb?
Yeah.
And I go, no, I don't have a proper job. You say it like it's a bad thing.
Yeah.
I'm more than happy not having a proper job.
I'm glad I don't have a proper job, because if I had a proper job, like, we wouldn't have met. We met by going to Ibiza for a fucking fitness conference, a business trip, which was 4.5 days of drinking unlimited mojitos, which is where the podcast came from. Yeah, for me. Yeah.
I had 3 days of shitting myself before.
Yeah, because you were doing a talk. I was just there to enjoy myself and learn. Obviously, learn. Particularly if the tax man's listening, I was definitely there to learn. But again, you look at it and you go, well, find me a traditional job where you get to go and rub shoulders with the most, elite people of the industry that you work in a really relaxed environment in Ibiza.
Yeah.
Where it's completely okay to be sitting, taking notes with one hand and holding a mojito in the other, and nobody looks at you like you're not taking it seriously.
Yeah.
Like, it was, for me, it was the most surreal fucking experience ever. It was my first like solo trip abroad for my own business and for me personally, and I'm sat there thinking that it's going to be the most overwhelming thing ever, and you realise that everyone that's anyone in this industry are all just normal people. We're just normal people.
There's still that element of fucking hell. Look at them. Like, I know that person, and we all know so many people over social media that we don't know at all.
Yeah.
But visibility creates a weird relationship with someone.
Yeah.
They're on your screen every day. You feel like you know their family or what their opinions are on things.
Yeah.
And then you're sitting next to them having breakfast, and you're like, what can I say here that doesn't feel a little bit
It doesn't sound weird.
Yeah, I'm not part of your life, but also I can ask you questions about things because you've chosen to tell me them vicariously through a screen.
I mean, I was blown away by just how like down to earth everybody was. Like, the first person that I met when I got to IFS, who's what I would consider to be very well known, was Big Ali.
Yeah. And
had a quick chat with him when we were both checking in at the same time. And that was the first person that I met when I first arrived. And then the first like super like famous feels like I'm like blowing it out of proportion, but Adam Sullivan was the first like serious player that from the industry that I actually met. And what was really weird about it is he brought the interaction to me rather than me being like, oh my God, it's Adam Sullivan.
Yeah.
He was getting in the lift and I was coming down the stairs, and he peered around the lift and he was like, sweet beer, bro. And I was like, this is fucking weird.
It
like,
stinks of him, that. It does.
Yeah, but I was like, I've literally been watching this guy's content for like 2.5 years.
Yeah.
And he's got a business that does, however,
I think
1.5
it was 16 million Australian dollars.
Yeah, it's on like 1.5 mil a month or whatever it was. And he's put his head round the door of a lift and been like, sweet beard. And then we end up having like a 5-minute conversation.
Yeah.
And then every time we crossed paths over the 4.5 days that I was there, he came and had a chat. And I was like, this is so fucking weird. Like, these are, again, it's why I would never want a proper job, because anyone that's anyone in other industries, typically there's that barrier to entry in terms of they're not that open. They're not prepared to just come and have a chat and have a drink and stuff. Like,
I mean, yeah, you are right. And also, if they were, would you want to chat to them?
Probably not.
Like, if you're at the top of telesales, or
well, again, I think back to the people that we're
chat about. You're not going to come and talk about my beard. You're going to. I mean that.
But that was that's exactly the reason why I wanted to move out of the industry I was in, because I was looking at the people who were successful, who I was aspiring to, and they genuinely would have long, detailed conversations that they clearly fucking loved about the roadmap of the products. Like, we'd be on like a team night out and they'd be talking shop, and I'm like, it's a Friday night, it's 9 p.m, we've had a few drinks, and you're still excited about what's to come on the next version release. And I'm like, I don't care about what the next version release is when I'm in a meeting talking about what the next version release is.
When we're designing it.
Let alone when I'm on a glorified social event. And I was looking around and I was like, I will never be that guy that's excited about what's to come, that's like, I can't wait for that, and kind of getting a fucking stonk on over dinner with my colleagues. I was like, can we talk about like something normal? Like, can we talk about football? Can we talk about what we have in common outside of the fact we're all paid by the same millionaire? And it's,
which is you don't have anything in common with them.
I mean, I was literally just not being like who I am, and now it's the complete opposite. I've put myself in a position where I can never go back to that industry because I've covered myself in even more tattoos than I had before. So it's, for me, it's I've got no option but to make this work. But it's, like I said, I'm incredibly blown away just by how this industry is, because you can literally be like you and I, relatively small followings, but if you're around the right people, the support is ridiculously good. One thing I do want to cover about today, though, is, and we could probably talk all day about the joys of leaving the corporate world to become semi-retired. But what I do want to talk to you about is you're essentially a professional athlete now.
I think that's. Carry on.
Something
I don't know about.
You were gonna downplay it, but so talk to me about Hyrox, because I'll be honest, I hadn't even heard of it until probably a few months ago. It seems like everybody genuinely, mate.
It's interesting.
I probably just grouped it with CrossFit and just assumed that it was something I would never enjoy because it looks like a lot of effort. Bearing in mind that my sporting career, I was a goalkeeper because it was
football. There's a bridge.
Yeah, but it's the least amount of running. So, of all the positions on the pitch, I'll take the one where you stand for most of it. So, anything like CrossFit and Hyrox, where I'm like, they work really fucking hard. I look at it and go,
does it appeal to you?
It never used to. Okay. It never used to. And again, I've always been more of a. So I prepped for physique competitions and stuff. So for me, like, training has always more been aesthetic rather than performance based. The reason why it probably appeals now more than anything is I got diagnosed with a condition called POTS about 18 months ago. And as a result, I'm now unable to train particularly hard because if I over exert myself, I'll pass out, which is not great when you're in the gym.
Not
so
if
my
you've got
training,
150 kilo barbell on your back. That's
exactly. So my training has changed massively over the last 18 months. Like, there's loads of exercises I can't do, like I can't squat, can't deadlift or anything like, because I'll just pass out, which is great fun. And obviously I'm now getting issues as a result of it with like my knees and stuff like that, which it is what it is, and obviously I adjust and I adapt things to reflect that, and I'm completely okay with it. But now I'm in a position where I'm like, do you know what, I can't do half the things that I would have been able to do in my 20s. I look at things like Hyrox and I go, do you know what, I wish I'd done something like that.
Instead of the aesthetic.
Yeah, I think so. Not least because by going down the bodybuilding route, I fucked my relationship with food, fucked my relationship with myself in terms of developing worse body dysmorphia, and put myself in a position where I thought I was doing what I needed to do, and like to be accepted in the industry, and ended up creating a load of headaches and problems for myself.
Very Dan Osman.
Yeah, very similar to Dan Osman, and again, it's I'm now in a position where I'm like, actually, if thinking back, I mean, I hate cardio, always have, but I feel like something like Hyrox, like CrossFit, because of the community and the way that it works, it would have been a much better investment of my time. And I probably, even with the diagnosis that I've got, I'd probably be in a position where I would feel like I still have more that I can do than now. Whereas I'm in a position where it's like, well, I can never compete because I almost can't train lower body.
Right.
I'll probably never achieve the physique that I want because I can never really push the numbers like I used to. Everything has to be lighter weight, a bit more volume, and stopping at least 3 reps and failure, because as I found out the hard way a few weeks ago when I was benching and thought I was on a relatively light warm-up weight, and I was like, I'm just going to see how we can do. I forced out a rep and I was like, I reckon there's 2 more in the tank. Brought the bar down, everything went white, everything went fuzzy, and I was literally just like, shit, this bar is coming down onto my chest. And then some dude that was deadlifting like well over 200 kilos came over and lifted the bar off with one hand. He's like, you okay, mate? And I'm like, I need to explain this.
That's a difficult one because you have to pre-qualify.
Yeah, I'm like,
the failure,
for the record, don't normally fail at 60
well, you
kilos.
don't need to. But, like, I can understand with body dysmorphia and the things that we've probably all got to an extent.
Yeah.
If there's someone in the gym who's bigger than you want to explain why you're not lifting that weight.
Yeah,
you know you're capable of.
100%.
Which is sad because he doesn't care.
But this is what I love about Hyrox, is that it's a completely different approach. It's a completely different mindset. It's very community based. It's very, everybody's there to drive each other on, whether you're competing singly or in pairs. It's something that I almost wish I hadn't been quite so dismissive of. Like, I remember when I first got into PT and like CrossFit was just starting to become a bit more popular, and I used to call it cross shit, and that was purely because
Gimp, CrossFit, all the other.
And the reason why I used to call it that is because people worked hard, and I have never been a massive enjoyer of cardio.
It's not cardio. Like,
no, I know.
Everyone's opinion of cardio is standing on a treadmill, looking at themselves in a mirror as their face sags every time their foot hits the floor.
Yeah.
With spit from whoever was on the treadmill before them. 100%. You go, yeah, everyone hates that because it's fucking mind numbing. And there's no progression, there's no excitement. As you said, there's no community. There's nothing to what the traditional view of cardio is.
But so I feel like I probably did an injustice to that world at the time, because it wasn't what I wanted to do, and obviously confirmation bias is rife in our industry. So I was like, I would never train that way, so it must be shit. And upon reflection, like pretty much everybody who's anybody at the moment is doing either BJJ or Hyrox, and I look at those two things and I think to myself, do you know what? Like, I would love to be in a position where I could do that. And obviously now I've got certain factors that would make it very difficult at the very least. I kind of look at it and go, sure, I probably shouldn't have been quite so dismissive at the time. There's a lot of benefits that come from it.
There's no benefit to looking back and saying I should have.
No, but I think it's important. Is there
any way you could get involved? I mean, I don't know the details of
my knees. My knees are a mess. If I can sort my knees out a little bit and I can start finding some way of getting a bit more lower body training in, then it's probably a bit more realistic. I can do things of a bit higher intensity, but at the moment it's like, it's that I'm from the waist down.
Well, it depends if you can run. Slowly.
At the moment, probably not. No. In that my knees, the tendonitis in my knees is ridiculously bad that it's painful just to drive a car.
Okay.
So running is not on the list of things, but it's fine because we can substitute running with more mojitos. It's like it's a reason to sit down, right?
It is indeed. But I can't remember when I found Hyrox, because my brother did. In London, I played football and went to the gym because it was supplementary to the football.
Yeah,
I've always gymmed, but I never did a bodybuilding program or anything like that. It was
so
always,
lucky.
I wonder if
I feel like so many people fall into it because the perception is that the people that step on stage are like the pinnacle of fitness.
Yeah,
and so many people just aspire to it that they end up falling down that route of eating and training like a physique competitor when that's not actually the goal.
Yeah.
And it does. I don't care who you are. I've got absolute respect for those that step on stage because I know what it takes to go through it, having prepped. But at the same time,
there is no way on God's green earth.
There is, in my opinion, and I echo that before the keyboard warriors start, but in my opinion, there is very little good that comes from fully embracing like the bodybuilder lifestyle. Like it's mad, which is the complete opposite to what I'm seeing from the Hyrox side of things.
Yeah.
That's really like, it seems like it's just exploded this year. Like along with BJJ have become two of these things that are super popular. But what I love about it is that it's not a dick swinging contest. It's not pretentious. It's not about who's the leanest or anything. It's like, yes, it's a competition about who can complete the course, obviously the quickest, but nobody cares if it takes you less than an hour or 2 hours.
Hey, like, don't say that. I'm desperate for my sub-hour.
But the thing is, everybody cheers you on no matter where you are with it. There's no like...
Yeah, true. Yeah.
Nobody looks down on you, whereas the bodybuilding industry, because I wanted to do things naturally, I was under immense pressure to use gear to hold my own when I stepped on stage.
Yeah.
And it was almost like frowned upon and looked down on that I wasn't prepared to take steroids, yet wanted to do a physique competition. Whereas at least with things like Hyrox, it's like people appreciate that it doesn't matter what your ability level is. If you're in it, you're supported just as much as you're the number one in the world, or you're the person who's...
Because I never did bodybuilding.
Yeah.
I guess I did, in the sense that I would put my headphones on and I'd go to the gym 3 or 4 times a week to do bro splits, because I had to. I don't know. I always was going to. Like, mine is, when I was younger, it was all about aesthetics, not because I wanted to stand on a stage, because I wanted to attract the opposite sex. Yeah, that was it. I knew that this in it was not a means to an end, because that sounds weird, but that's what it was. It will help my football, and it will make me more appealing to females, and the team side of things was why I cared most. Like, I played football since I was 5, and football was my be all and end all. Yeah. And if something was going to make me better at football, then I would do it. And if the byproduct of that was I might be more attractive to females, and I don't think it ever made a difference, because I never got big.
We've all experienced it, where you train really hard in the hope that you're more attractive to females, and all you seem to get is more adulation from blokes in the gym who are like, "You're looking really good, mate."
Well, you did, because you got big enough. Because you would have actually cared about your diet, and you would have done the right. I didn't know enough, so in terms like progressive overload, I was like, I guess I'll try and lift more, but there was no science or mathematics to it. It was, I'll try and lift more. I never wrote anything down in the first 8 years I went to the gym. I just did the same movements and that irks me, in the sense that if I'd known more back then, and there's a whole thing now about, is social media good or bad? If social media had been around when I was that age, the amount of education that is available at the end of your fingertips is phenomenal, which is why every 18-year-old now looks 30 from a physique perspective. When I was 18, I looked like a bag of noodles. It was awful.
I was the same. I was the same. I really struggled to put in size until I started doing a desk job, and gradually started to gain a bit of weight. And you go, oh, it's possible then. And
I think that was what saved me. And when I was working in an office, it was just because football was a part of my life. I cared more about football than I did my job. Yeah. So I was always going to go to the gym, because that was what my priorities were. Yeah. And I don't think I ever understood the benefits from a psychological and a resilience perspective that working out and football gave me in the workplace. I've tried to like reverse engineer it and go, why was I always kind of okay at work? I was never really that stressed. I'm not sure whether it's because I didn't care, or because I had safeguards and ways to protect myself in the way of fitness, resilience. I know that I can overcome, in like a very poetic sense of the word. So if I feel stressed at work, I'm like, well, I stress my body 5 days a week. I know that I get stronger. I know that it doesn't matter. It's just a wave you've got to ride. Whereas people who didn't have any exercise ingrained in their routine were just flappers, man. They were busy for the sake of busy. They were stressed. They couldn't deal with confrontation. And there's probably deeper things in terms of my psychology and theirs, but I genuinely believe that the more exercise you've done from a young age, the more times you've stressed your body, felt that stress response, dealt with it, you just bulletproof yourself at work. And that's that's really my why when someone asks me, is because I saw people capitulate at work, and almost to a man, they didn't exercise, they didn't look after their diet. And I look at all the mentors I had, all of the people that were smashing their way up the hierarchy, and never seemed stressed, never seemed flustered.
Yeah.
They would leave at midday to go to the gym, and then they'd go out for dinner with their friends afterwards, but they would eat well and they would look after themselves. Like, guys, there's a very fucking obvious link here between who is not just senior, but senior and wearing it well.
Yeah.
Are going to be able to stay at the top for a long time. They all look after themselves, they all exercise, they all look after their nutrition. Fucking join the dots. And people work themselves into a frenzy and think, I need to work harder to get up there. Actually, a lot of the time, you need to work less hard, integrate the right habits, which makes you more efficient, makes you more resilient to stress and anxiety, and your progression up that ladder will be steeper, and the amount of time that you stay at the top will be longer. It's just so clear cut to me, and it annoys me when I look at people burning out and working themselves into a ground. Like, take your foot off the gas, because there's no other option.
Yeah, I completely agree, and I think there's a few really interesting points in there that I want to pick out. The first one is that last point in terms of how much that transitions and translates into fitness in general, like with the people that we work with. The reason why most people struggle to reach their goals is because they end up creating a situation that causes them more stress, rather than looking at it and going, well, actually, how can I create an environment that will help me become more consistent and more disciplined, which in turn will help me manage the process more effectively and enjoy it more, so therefore want to do it more and improve on it.
Yeah.
People come at it from the wrong angle and go, how can I get there as quickly as possible? And it's the same in the corporate world. If you're trying to climb the ladder as quickly as possible, you're probably going to be the most stressed person, and you won't get, if you get to the top, you won't stay at the top, because your approach to getting there is not sustainable. Exactly the same way with the people that we work with. If your approach to getting in better shape isn't sustainable, good luck maintaining those results.
You might make a lot of progress quickly.
Yeah, but you'll lose it just as fast, if not quicker, and you'll be more disillusioned when you lose it
yourself.
Yeah.
There's so many parallels between you get to the world of work, and the timescales aren't the same, but you get there at the bottom of the ladder and you're like, I need to just work my tits off, and I need to sacrifice everything, and I need to, more is more, and more is going to get me further. And it does work for a period of time. But if you're not looking after yourself, if you're not doing the right things, if you're not creating the right network and the right community on your way up, you're just going to fail at some point. The same thing when you start working out or trying to get fit is, you can go full send. You can get no support. You can try and do it on your own. But you will get injured, and your progress will get stunted very quickly.
Yeah.
Just slow is smooth, smooth is fast. Get there, have a program, do it with the right people. And that's why I think there's just so many parallels between the world of fitness and the world of work. And people just can't take a step back to realise that actually if they slowed down, they'd speed up. In a weird kind of way. Yeah,
100%. I think the other point that I wanted to pick up on what you said there, that so many people overlook, is the importance of being involved in sports from a young age. Because I think it teaches you discipline. It teaches you things like respect.
Yeah,
it teaches you the importance of things like being a team player, being able to work well with people, but also how to work under pressure. And I think the correlations that you saw obviously in your professional world with anyone that was doing well and looked like they could handle it were invested in some form of sport. And I know from my perspective, I've played pretty much every sport going since I can remember, and that's made me who I am. I'm competitive, I'm driven because of what I've done, but I also am able to navigate periods of stress and pressure because I've been in periods of stress and pressure where you have to just get through it from a sports perspective. Again, being a goalkeeper, the amount of penalty shootouts I've been involved in,
awful.
It's really high pressure situations, but you get to a point where you thrive off it. I used to love penalties. Anytime a penalty was given, the rest of the team were like, oh, for fuck's sake, I fucking loved it. Like,
keepers are weird.
We're a fucking strange breed. We're a rare breed. But I do think there's so much importance to having some form of competitive activity that you do that just helps with general life and how you navigate and manage situations. And when you look at it, the majority of people that struggle during high pressure situations are the people who have never been involved in any form of sport. And again, to bring it back to the point around Hyrox, again, I think this is one of the benefits that comes from it in terms of that I've massively overlooked, is the fact that actually it's that competitive edge, but it's not you against the next guy. It's you against you. It's you trying to improve yourself. And the difference between that and say bodybuilding is, yes, the bodybuilding world is everyone's really nice and everyone's supportive, but it's
just siloed, right?
Very siloed, and everybody's out for themselves. So as much as they're all good friends and what have you, they're out for themselves. Whereas in an industry and an environment like CrossFit and like Hyrox, it's like you could be competing against your best mate, and it doesn't matter who crosses the line first. The other person is likely to go back and help the other person. Like there is that camaraderie, so it does help build your character and it does help build your discipline and everything like competitive sports do, but it does it in such an inclusive way. And I think that's why I wanted to touch upon it in this podcast, because I know for me personally, and anyone that's looked at my content over the last few years have probably remember posts that I've done in the past.
Have you slagged off Hyrox in the past?
Not Hyrox directly, no. I slagged off CrossFit. Yeah, I did. Yeah, I used to call it cross shit and say that I'd rather shit on my hands and clap. And there's still elements of that ring true in the basis that I think, naturally I'm inherently lazy. So when I see,
but that doesn't. There's got to be a respect for
there is an ever growing respect for it on the basis that I can see that there are significant benefits and positives to that world that actually I wish I'd got involved in, because of the way that I am in terms of being naturally competitive and very sporty and what have you. I think it would have been a much better route for me to have gone down with my own fitness journey than getting too het up on my own aesthetics and putting myself in a position where I hate what I see in the mirror every day.
That's you can't look at that and go, I did it wrong. You did exactly what you needed to do for yourself at the time.
100%.
No one ever makes a bad decision, or no one ever intentionally makes the wrong decision, right? You weighed up everything you had, your preferences, what was available, what sort of facilities, and you went, that's the right choice for me. And it was for a time, I'm sure. I wish when I was playing football I'd put more effort into bodybuilding, because I would have actually got the body that I was trying to build, but I didn't. So you can't be too hard in this.
Hindsight's 20/20 and all that. But again, I think we're sort of at a good stage to almost sort of round things off a little bit. But I think as a sort of an ending point, almost as a bit of me sort of eating humble pie, I kind of want to just give the floor to you to kind of again share some of your experiences from Hyrox in terms of positivity, what got you into it, what you get out of it, and what your goals are for the next year, because I know you obviously
I'm gonna
take it pretty,
stitch myself up by saying heighty lofty goals that I never achieve.
Right, you're gonna set them. We'll get you back on midway through next year and we'll see how you're doing with.
That'd be nice. That'd be great, mate.
But,
how I got into it, because I played football. My brother did CrossFit in London for 4 or 5 years, and I think I probably had the same opinion as you. It's cliquey. It's like it's different in London, I believe, to everywhere else. I've been to a couple of boxes in London, and they're a bit more pressured. Like it's a highly strung environment where it's really fucking expensive. B, it feels like if you're not already good, then it's not an environment you should go into. Which is awful, because that's the bit that I don't like, is that I want, because I know the value that every single person could get out of having it's bigger than exercise. It's actually just a hobby. People just need a hobby, because that's where you process and that's where you let off steam. I think people's hobby should be exercise. If it's fucking knitting, I don't care. But if you don't have an outlet that's reading, walking, knitting, exercise, I think you're fucked in the long run. So
I completely agree.
On an exercise perspective, I liked the idea of CrossFit because I fucking love what we've called cardio. I'm never going to be the strongest bloke in the gym. I can be the fittest one. Because if I want it more, I'm better. You tell me to pick up a heavy deadlift, no matter how much I want a 180, it's not going up. Whereas if you say run that lap harder, I'm like, there's always more in the tank. I can fight myself mentally by wanting to give up and not giving up. Whereas if the weight's not moving, the weight's not moving. When I left, I actually gave up football because my hip. I was never going to be professional. I'm not going to coin that one. And since starting CrossFit, my hip's been fine. So from that injury point of view, I've loved the box that I've joined. The community feels amazing. The just learning new skills feels great. But first and foremost, I like being competitive and I like winning. And if I stayed only in CrossFit, I'm never going to feel good. I came to it too late. My powerlifting's not amazing. I'm okay for my body weight and all the rest of it, but I don't mind being okay 99% of the time, but sometimes I want to feel good. I want to
Yeah.
feel like I don't know, like I'm winning. And
Yeah.
I lost that from football.
Yeah.
I don't get the chance to win at anything anymore. And even if you're in a shit team on a Sunday league or a professional team, the feeling of winning and losing is the same.
Yeah.
And I lost that when I couldn't play football anymore. And when I compete in Hyrox, I get that back a little bit because
Yeah.
you beat a time.
Yeah.
And that's what, in some respects, the uniformity of Hyrox is shit, because you do Malaga, you do Valencia, you do Barcelona, you're doing the same thing. Some people find that boring. I like winning. If I've beaten myself this time than versus the last one, I've won, and I
Yeah.
need that in my competition. The nature of CrossFit's, every workout is different. You don't know. Obviously, you've got your lifts go up every week, but I want to compete, I want to try hard, and I want to win.
Yeah.
And that's what Hyrox gives me. I love just being in the hurt locker for a long period of time.
Yeah.
And you don't get that in weightlifting, in bodybuilding.
No, you get a lot of rest.
So I've done doubles a couple times, and no one will think I'm being a dick by this, but I've been the better athlete in both of them. And the thing with Hyrox is, if you do doubles and you're the better athlete, it's easier for you over time, and it's harder for your partner over time. The difference between your energy levels gets bigger.
Yeah.
Because every event that I do, unless you even it out, and I don't want to go into too much complexity, but then doing the singles, you're like, okay, fucking the spotlight's on you now.
Yeah.
You don't get to rest slightly longer than your partner does. On the runs, because I can run a 4-minute kilometre comfortably, my partner can't. If we're running a 4:15, I'm resting in essence.
Yeah.
And I feel like I'm cheating, therefore I didn't get that feeling. When I did the singles, it's like, okay, I want to stop. A lot of the time, my girlfriend was there, a lot of people were watching me compete for the first time, and I was like, I really want to stop.
Yeah.
And I'm proud to say at the end, like, I didn't slow down, I gave 100%. And I think the fact that what you've done with people won't like this, but you've taken CrossFit, you've taken out the technical and the heavy stuff.
Yeah.
You've made it accessible to the masses. Whether you're a Hyrox purist or not, I think it's naive to not see it as a subsection of CrossFit.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean it's a bad thing. It just means everyone can do it.
Yeah, and I think that's a really good place to end on, because that's how fitness should be.
Yeah.
It should be an inclusive space that can cater for everybody, irrespective of ability, capability, mobility. There should be something for everybody, irrespective of where you are, what you want to achieve, and what your goals are. And I think that's one of the things that I'm seeing from Hyrox is, and again, obviously from CrossFit and what have you, is you look at the community, and you look at particularly with Hyrox, you look at the inclusivity, the fact that it doesn't matter if it's your first time or if you've been doing it for years. Everybody is welcomed in exactly the same way, encouraged in exactly the same way.
I've trained a 64-year-old woman, and she's done a Hyrox. She's only 5'3".
Yeah.
Like, at that stage, if someone goes, I can't do it, I'm like, you're just fooling yourself now.
Whereas every other discipline from a fitness perspective that's either performance or aesthetic based, there's almost a barrier to entry in terms of you need to be in that top X percentage to be considered
you're right.
successful. I struggled with it from a physique perspective because I didn't want to take steroids, so I was made perfectly aware that I would struggle to hold my own on stage. I could still do it. I was unlikely to be successful.
Do they have natural and non-natural comps?
Some federations do. Some federations have tested versus non-tested. The federations that I was doing, a lot of the more beginner type stuff, it's less.
They won't have the provision for it, right?
It's less regulated from that perspective. But again, you get it with powerlifting. Unless you've trained incredibly hard over a number of years.
Yeah. Mate,
powerlifting competitions are
hard.
So difficult to break into. Whereas, like you said, the good thing with Hyrox in particular is it provides an entry into fitness, into community, into bettering yourself for pretty much any standard. And I think that's fucking
literally
awesome.
Any standard.
And that's where I'd like the fitness industry to get to, where it becomes a safe space for everybody who wants to better themselves, to get accurate information, to get encouragement, and to get community and support. It's why I do what I do. I'm sure it's why you do what you do. It's why you probably do Hyrox as well, because of that wider feeling, and being able to recapture that competitive edge. But I think if more things embraced that type of ethos,
yeah,
the industry would be less cunty, for want of a better word of it, and it can be really cunty.
Yeah.
It can be really pretentious, and it can be really, if somebody's not a particular size, shape, lifting a certain amount of weight, and what have you, people do judge. And I think Hyrox eliminates that. It's more of a level playing field, and I think that's something that should be celebrated, that I've probably in the past looked at as a
frailty.
Yeah.
Maybe. I think it's because I'm late to the fitness industry, in essence. Like I've followed Adam Sullivan because we were at the IFS. Like I don't know a lot. James Smith is pretty much a staple in my life for the last 10 years, but other than that, I don't know a load of people. My goal is stop people burning out. The people that I used to work with, I'm so strongly of the belief that they could prevent that if they exercised.
Yeah.
I don't care what they look like, and I haven't niched down. I've struggled with this, and we could talk about this for ages. New to the business, new to the world of fitness. I don't have that niche. I help 30 to 40-year-old male office workers lose 15 kilos because I don't care what you are. If you're stressed and you're at risk of burnout, that's my client.
Yeah.
So I struggle with that, and I see Hyrox as the perfect silver bullet to that, because I could go into load of depth, but it works for people with a business mind.
Yeah.
To me, Hyrox is a project.
Yeah.
You got 8 events and your running ability. Where's your weakness? Okay, it's a risk analysis. If I want this time, where's the greatest risk? If it's in the sled push and the run after the sled push, you can train that, you can repeat, you can retest, you can see that you've gone up there. What's my greatest weakness now? That's really nice. It's satisfying and it's mathematical and it's logical, which is why I think it works for people with limited time who are stressed and want to see results, because I can say, look, we tested this, we implemented this, we retested, we got a better result. Whereas with CrossFit, you're like, am I getting better? I don't know. My snatch is shit.
Yeah.
So I think that's that, and you can test your running. You can improve your running in a 20-minute workout. So I think Hyrox is for everyone, particularly people who we used to work with.
Yeah.
And they're the people that need it the most.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I love that. Well, mate, it's been an absolute pleasure. We could probably talk for another few hours, and we probably will. Yeah. I'm not driving today, so I may even have another mojito. Who knows?
It was good.
But yeah, really appreciate that. I think before we round it off again, obviously just let everyone know your socials so they can find you. Do give this guy a follow. His content's fucking quality. And if you've got any ounce of interest in Hyrox, you definitely need to follow this guy and watch his journey. So let the people know where to find you. And
it's James Micklem _PT on Instagram. JamesMicklem.com, but get me through Instagram. It's a much better shop window than my website, which needs improving.
There we go. And obviously you hopefully know who I am. If you don't, it's at Paul Andrews PT on every single platform. If you can follow me on Instagram, that'd be fucking great, because that doesn't seem to grow like TikTok these days. But thank you for listening. We will be back again in the next episode, where I'll be sharing another mojito with somebody else who's got a brilliant fucking story to tell. But James, it's been a pleasure, mate.
Thank you very much, Paul.
And we will see you on the next one.